All right. So we will move now to our last panel related to AI. Canada has moved faster than most countries on AI. It has built sovereign computing infrastructure. It has designed AI tools alongside its government. It has invested in talent and has produced frontier AI companies from within its own university system, Toronto in particular. So the next panel will try to explore what is this experience or what we can learn from this experience in Chile. So please welcome me and join with our panelists that are Mr. Jorge Alessandri, President of the Chamber of Deputies of Chile, Mr. Michael Pelosi, Canada's country manager at Cohere. Cohere is a company that introduced a critical breakthrough behind every major AI system in existence today. Patricio will tell you the story if you don't know it. And Mr. Patricio Cofré, partner at EY and the leader of the Latin American AI and Data Consulting. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. They're putting their mics, but they're about to be ready.
Thank you very much. ¿Dónde nos sentamos?
Please.
¿Cuál? ¿Ahí? Embajadora.
All right. Okay,
¿Se le cayó el celular?
thank you, Jaime, and thank Invest for bringing this important conversation to the stage. Before giving the floor to my guests, let me set the scene a little on why this conversation is important and why is it important to be here in Toronto and Canada to talk about AI. And probably the first fact is that Canada is the first known AI policy, national AI policy, that promoted the three large research centers throughout the country, and that flourished a large ecosystem within the country. Second, in 2018, in the Turing Awards, which is namely the computer science Nobel Prize, was awarded to three people that currently are named the godfathers of AI, to Geoffrey Hinton, Joshua Benjo, and Jean LeCun. Hi, welcome, Michael. Good to see you here. We started a little early.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I thought we were starting for 1.
The politician is supposed to make an entrance, but he made an entrance. You see.
Excellent. Yeah, so in 2018, the Turing Award, basically the Nobel Prize for Computer Science was awarded to Geoffrey Hinton, Joshua Benjo, and Jean LeCun, the two former national Canadians, and the third of them a postdoc alumni of University of Toronto. And later, Geoffrey Hinton also in 2024 won the Nobel Prize in Physics because of the inventions that allow the current AI that we are seeing. And in 2019, a young professional, U-Toronto alumni, Aidan Gomez, founded, and let me tell you a little bit more of this story. Aidan Gomez is one of the authors of the paper, of the seminal paper that allowed the current state of the large language model. It's called Attention is All You Need. And this paper is currently the technical foundation of all large language models that we are seeing. And he founded here in Toronto the company Cohere, that we have Michael here to talk us a little bit about it. So this is the type of ecosystem that we are living here. This is the type of ecosystem that exists in Canada that definitely we want to learn something. So which brings me to our panelist, Jorge Alessandri, which is literally in the room, that is talking about the Chilean bill for AI, and we'll talk about it. And Michael Pelosi, the country manager for Canada of Cohere, which and Cohere has become part of the backbone of the Canada Sovereign AI Initiative. So let's start talking about sovereignty. And my first question is for you, Michael. What sovereignty actually means for large enterprise?
Well, first off, I'm sorry for making such a poor impression. As a Canadian, we're supposed to be polite and on time, and I wasn't. So thank you for having me, and apologies for that. Really appreciate being here and excited to talk about all things AI today, and sovereignty being one of them. We often hear about sovereignty, and it at times gets misconceived for it must mean that it has to be in your country and you have to be building it yourself. What we think of when we think of sovereignty is ownership, control, primarily. And what do I mean by that when we think about AI? You want to have, as an organization or a government entity, the ability to control how AI is being used, who can turn it on or turn it off, and what type of data it's engaging with. Sovereignty is having complete control to do that. It is something at Cohere that we're focused on. We are focused on giving our partners the ability to use AI in their environment, no strings attached. And what I mean by that is literally no ability to interfere, control, or prevent our partners from using it. This hasn't come up as much as organizations have just started dabbling in AI, and so have governments. Where this is going to be particularly relevant is when we start using AI for everything in our enterprises, governments, industries, etc. The material risk that will be associated with not having control of your AI will become more and more prevalent as it's becoming a bigger and bigger component of everyday life. So sovereignty to us is control and ownership, and allowing folks to have that with a sense of security and peace of mind that regardless the geopolitical climate, which as we know changes all the time now, you have a sense of confidence that it won't disrupt your government's, organization's, enterprise day-to-day activity.
Exactly, which turned to be very important now that AI is not only in the back office or as a satellite, but it's getting to the core of the businesses. So it turned to be critical right now. Yeah, so Jorge, Chile is currently debating the regulation. And what's the view about sovereignty? Is something that is seen as an enabler, or it's seen that something that can slow us down a little?
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's been a great 4 or 5 days in New York and in Toronto. Does that work better? Mm-hmm. Thank you, Invest Chile, for that. And we're looking at Canada closely, not only because Canada is the first investor in Chile. I was pretty worried in the debate in the Chilean Congress when they defined sovereignty, but when I listened to Michael's definition, I'm not nervous anymore. It's more about control than ownership, right? Exactly. It's not about having it in your own country. I see.
There is.
The bill that we are discussing, it passed from the House of Representatives to the Senate, is following the European Union model. That is good, but it's also bad. We want more opportunities, we want more AI, we want AI used in practical problems so the state can use it to solve each one of the little problems when giving services to the public, when managing the people's money. We were just listening to the tax panel here and how important it is to be competitive when taxing.
Exactly.
The country also makes big mistakes when spending. So welcome AI when it's to solve a problem. Welcome AI when it's to make the government faster, more effective, when it helps you detect something that the finance minister called social fraud, when the wrong people are getting the social benefits. But we also understand that AI can be dangerous and can be a problem when it starts to control public opinion, social media, especially in very special moments in democracy, right before an election, right before or after an institutional crisis. So I think we cannot look at AI without dividing it in two. The AI that solves problems and works more efficiently with taxpayers' money, and the AI that controls opinion, social media, and attacks democracy if the right framework is not in position.
Right, right. But AI is a layered stack of different things that start with infrastructure, of course, law and governance, and then the use cases. Are the bill also including something on the infrastructure and the governance itself?
Every time a bill goes into Congress, especially in Chile, the first thing it does in the first 5 articles is create some sort of public council with an office and with 20 or 30 employees.
Right.
So that part got approved right away. The state becoming bigger, fatter, slower, and that's the part I don't like. I like the fines are also very high. When you speak about AI, you have great worldwide corporations that could maybe pay a high fine when they make a mistake, but you also have little companies, medium-sized companies that will not be prepared.
Right.
So I think the bill can be made better to open the country for AI in the good sense, open the country for middle-sized, for small entrepreneurs who want to solve the country's problems, but also having a framework, especially, for example, on the political side, for deep fakes.
Yeah.
We already have enough human deep fakes. We don't want any electronic deep fakes.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and let me add from the enterprise standpoint in national companies in Chile, I would say that Chile is a fast adopter of technologies. We are seeing many, many interesting use cases in Chile. However, I would say that in terms of sovereignty, I think there's a reflection that the enterprise sector in Chile still need to have in terms of reliability, in terms of cost resilience, and some governance decisions regarding what happens if something turn off, what happens if can we have a resilience in terms of offline usage and this type of considerations. So let's jump to the second part of the conversation is the government as a client. Okay, so Jorge, I want to start with you. You in the chamber has been exploring opportunities to use AI and how this can help the legislative process. Later we will talk about other uses in the public sector, but in the room, how are you managing this?
The recently elected president, Jose Antonio Cast, he got sworn in March 11th, so 2 months ago exactly. And he has a clear mandate to every ministry in the country to see where he can transform his ministry into AI, into solving problems, into better management. In Congress, as an independent power in democracy, we are doing the same thing. Most of the employees are very scared because they tell us AI is going to take my job away from me. And what we are trying to tell them is all the opposite. If you learn how AI can be a booster to whatever work you do, AI can make you, if you're a old Fiat, AI can make you a Ferrari.
Right.
So learn about AI, learn how to use it in your favor. We are, for example, designing an agent that every congressman will have on their phone or on their computer, so we can ask this agent. Previously, we are signing agreements with every congressional library in the world. We started with the United States, but we're signing agreements with every congressional library. So our system has direct contact with all the legislation, not only the legislation that has been passed, but also the legislation discussed in countries like Argentina, like Brazil, regarding taxes, regarding drug trafficking, regarding civil rights. And you will, when this works, hopefully in July 2026, a Chilean congressman will have at his disposal direct information on how a bill on a certain topic was passed in each country,
Amazing.
what went well about that bill, what went wrong, and automatically, after 10 or 20 seconds, today I can email the Chilean Congressional Library and 200 investigators will send a report back in 40 days. When I get the answer, I already forgot what I asked.
Right.
So this is going to be right away at your disposal as a member of parliament, as someone who's writing the rules, but hopefully at the end of the year, we will also have it for the public, for anyone to pick an idea from Indonesia, from Australia, from New Zealand, and make it a law in Chile that already worked in another country,
Right.
and we could adapt to the Chilean culture.
That's impressive, impressive. Impressive the efficiency, the number of resources that you can access and massively get the...
And
all the-
hopefully no one's getting fired. They're all going to learn.
Absolutely.
How to check. We need human judgment at the end of the chain. At some time, you have to be checking what the AI is giving you. Even if you've trained it for a long time, you're going to need human judgment because we cannot pass democracy into a machine.
Right.
Democracy always will need filters, will need checking, will need the criteria of a human being who believes in a free world to check every paper.
Right.
So people, employees in Congress or in the public sector are invited to learn about AI, to learn how to use it, to learn how to become a Ferrari, but they hopefully will not get fired.
Holding the steering.
I've been told driving a Ferrari is not an easy task.
Absolutely. Michael, Cohere is positioning itself as the leading alternative for the government in order to access all the benefits of AI and also in the enterprise sector. So can you tell us a little on what it actually means and what Chile can also learn from this?
Yes, so we're really fortunate that the government has gotten behind Cohere, which is wonderful to have the support of the Canadian government. But in addition to just national pride, there are lots of practical reasons what to think about when you're trying to do a lot of the work you just shared and driving adoption and using AI. A couple of things that the government in particular and Cohere work on, which isn't talked about enough, unfortunately, is this going to work today, and is it also going to work tomorrow? And here's what I mean by that, using the Ferrari analogy. It's actually one I use too, so I'm glad we can share on that. If you have a couple of Ferraris, and they both can go around the track at a relatively similar speed, handle similar, more or less perform similarly. On the surface, you think, okay, they're one and the same, so we'll use this one. But that one requires gasoline that costs $1,000 a tank. The other one requires gasoline that costs $10 a tank. And you might be saying, well, what do you mean by that, Mike? AI in small use, you can use any model you want, including these enormous ones that come out from the OpenAIs and Anthropics that can do everything. But in reality, those are the $1,000 a tank models. They're not particularly practical for solving day-to-day tasks that you're trying to automate or modernize in, say, the government. A lot of folks aren't thinking about, well, the cost to run this in one department is relatively modest. But have I thought about what this will look like when I have 40 million Canadians engaging with us using this model, using this AI? And that's when the economics and the viability no longer make sense. And so as you're thinking about this, it's not just what can it do in a flashy demo video. We've all seen a cool AI video that does all these great things. It's also what I like to call the non-sexy stuff. Is it practical? Is it efficient? Will this work at scale? Is it cost prohibitive? So these are some of the things we work with the government on, making sure we can deliver solutions that are future-proofed, that aren't just going to work in a small pilot, but will work as they're thinking about it, rolling out AI technology, AI-enabled services to not only the hundreds of thousands of government employees, but also eventually to the tens of millions of Canadian citizens. So that's one. The second, in the same vein, is, will this be foolproof? Can it be disrupted? And this goes back to the sovereignty conversation. Once AI, we believe, is woven through the fabric of everything the government and public service is doing, every way a citizen engages with them, every way their employees are doing their day-to-day job, we think the risk of there being interference there is so enormous that you also need to think about, how are you using this model? Where is it deployed? Is it sovereign? Do you have control? And am I mitigating these types of risks in a geopolitical climate that's ever changing? So number one is making sure we're working with the government, in our case, to develop a solution that will work in 2029 with full adoption across all citizens and employees of the government. But two is a solution that, once woven through the fabric of the nation, of the country, won't be disrupted, even if there are more geopolitical shakeups. Those are a couple of things that have been very, very important as we're working more and more with government and enterprise to help them think about this not just being an interesting thing that we can do in a couple of months, but this is something that we believe is going to transform enterprise and public service fundamentally. And how do you plan for that as well? And picking the right AI model for the right task is really important, where historically everyone has picked the fanciest Ferrari with the most expensive gas to do everything, which isn't always the right approach.
Yeah.
I come from a developing country, so what we needed to run like a Ferrari, but to cost like a Tesla.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
And how interesting is to see that this future-proof view that you're seeing in the government, in bringing use cases, and also creating this flywheel that start from the initial use cases in the government that then expand to the whole market. It's quite interesting. So let's...
Yeah, and actually, I'll touch up on that quickly.
Sure.
That's a really important point. What we'll also see, and I'm sure most of you in this room have been exposed to this in some capacity, is the pursuit of perfection preventing progress. And that's really important. I'm fortunate enough in my role to meet with lots of CEOs and government officials, and everyone's always waiting for it to be perfect. Their data to be perfect, their team to be perfect. It's almost perfect. We're almost ready to do something. We strongly encourage that this idea of perfect, it will never be. I promise you, if you ever engage with anyone on your technical or data teams, they will say today, tomorrow, and a year from now, the data is almost perfect, that we're almost ready. So I strongly encourage folks to think about this idea of the flywheel, of developing the muscle, starting with progress, not the endless pursuit of perfection, because that won't happen right away. And get people comfortable with this idea and using the technology as you continue to broaden the use cases and broaden the adoption.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
In Chile, we call that lo mejor es enemigo de lo bueno.
exacto.
Perfection is an enemy of
Good.
good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's jump to the sectors. Let's talk to interesting use cases in mining, commodities, and public sector. Why not? So, Jorge, what unique use cases have you seen in the public sector execution?
This is going very fast in the government. It's not being told. Many people are scared that it's not perfect, actually. But the president has given a direct mandate to the ministers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take advantage that all of the ministers and undersecretaries have left.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you that we will have surprises, probably in May or June. Each of the ministers regarding, for example, jail administration, regarding public health.
Mm-hmm.
Chile had done some advances in President Piñera's former terms. We started with something called the digital hospital. We passed a law that said that all your health records, no matter if you treated yourself in the private sector or in the public sector, there was one record that would be shared between both systems. That is on, it's working, and we're going to make it tougher. So we want the country, the health system of the country, private and public, to know exactly all of your health record, all of your history,
Mm-hmm.
what operations you've had, what diseases in your family. So if you ever have an accident in any place of the country, or you ever need an emergency medical assistance, your record will be there. We also created in 2014 the Comisaría Digital, the digital police station. And that's working too. You no longer do a line in Chile when you crash your car and you have to. Some people still like the line and they like the coffee and they like to meet friends at the police station, but I would advise differently. I would say go into comisariadigital.cl and write about your accident, give the police station your information and save an hour.
Right.
And if many people start saving hours in their day, we will be a richer country. The people will have more time for their work, more time to be productive, more time to go to the gym, more time to have a walk with their families. So many things are happening. For example, in the customs service, we have a big problem with drug trafficking, especially in our ports. We are testing or trying a software that tracks the paperwork of a container.
Mm-hmm.
The same container that comes to Chile in March probably passed through Asia, through Brazil, through ports in Peru, not Bolivia, through different countries. And when that container gets to a Chilean port, we don't have staff to open it and check it because there's hundreds and hundreds of containers coming in. The software, only by checking the paper trail of the container, only by checking, it gives you a percentage.
Right.
And after checking all the paper trail, it tells you there is a 65% possibility that this container contains something illegal.
Right.
So we only use our limited staff to open up and check that specific container. What we are doing today is we are spending hours and hours of limited staff checking containers with potatoes.
Right.
Or cars. So that little change is going to make our customs service, our custom office, not only more effective, but hopefully drug traffickers are going to be afraid of our customs service because we are going to catch the containers that we need to catch.
Right.
And I could give you examples in the finance minister, in the transports, in the police, in the judiciary system.
Right.
And Chile is working in a hurry. If I could be listened from my country today, I would repeat maybe Michael's words. Don't be worried about being perfect. Let's try it out.
Right.
Let's see how it works, and let's build through that.
Yeah, and hopefully they will fear not only our controls, but they will feel our intelligence.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Michael, from the enterprise sector, what cases you think highlights and how you see the before and after using AI?
Yeah, well, the fun thing about AI is it's so malleable, and it can help tackle so many different challenges in enterprise, public sector, et cetera. But I'll give a few. I think high level, one of the things that we see when people are thinking about AI, admittedly, it's an intimidating topic. It's changing all the time, and people often ask me, Michael, what should my AI strategy be, given all this change, all this shift? And I'll politely push back, sometimes maybe not so politely, but I try to be polite, and say, AI is a remarkable tool to help your business or your public entity or your department or whatever it is you're running operate better. Focus on that first and what would transform your business or your enterprise, and let's think then how AI can help support that. And so what I mean by that is if you take the traditional approach, Michael, I saw this video of this automated robot greeting my customers in the bank. That's what we should be doing. You get caught up on, let's use AI for something that maybe your bank doesn't really even need, where in fact what your bank needs to transform itself is to reduce the friction of applying for a mortgage that happens tens of thousands of times a day at these large banks. And how can we automate the back end of that to move it from a week to an hour to not only get you a higher, more accurate lending ratio for the client who's asking, but a far better experience. And so you can often get caught up in, we'll call the shiny ball syndrome. Someone else called it the golden retriever, just chasing whatever looks good. And it can come at the cost of, are you really solving a pain point that's going to transform your business? And so with a lot of our enterprise clients, that's where we try to focus is, maybe it's a little bold, but productivity metrics are important. But our aim is to move the stock price. What moves the stock price of your business? And how do we reverse engineer where AI can add dramatic value there? And so let's use a bank. We are fortunate to work with a lot of large banking institutions here. And I can give a simple one. We have something here called the Registered Education Savings Program, RESP. And it's this lovely program our government has created where you can contribute to it annually to save money for your child if they want to go to secondary school when they're 17, 18, whenever they decide to do that. The government will match as well and provide some funds each year. When your child, 17, very excited, eager to not only become a meaningful contributor and client of a bank, now that they're going off to school or wherever they may be going, but they're now eager to get these funds. To withdraw the money from an RESP is remarkably labor-intensive, time-consuming, and a real pain in the, pardon my language, pain in the ass. It takes weeks. You have to make sure the letterhead of the university is official. There is incredible amounts of manual, low inspiration work that is required to do this. It's also a really important time to show up well for your next generation of client, who's the 17-year-old. This is a process that is now completely autonomous. Everything from the initial request to a vision model reading the letterhead. Yes, there's human in the loop to finally do the final check, but it reduces the time to do this tremendously. And it's not just the time, it's the experience. And so that's one small example of how do you take a financial institution, think about the end goal, in this case, the consumer bank, delighting consumers and adding financial products and value to their lives, and transforming how you do it from the traditional norms. And that might seem like this is something else that we've noticed, relatively straightforward. But what we're also finding to do anything in production, and what I mean by production is It's not in a small pilot, it's not in a small test, it's actually working. You can't have errors. You can't have mistakes. It's very, very hard. So that's the other thing I want to share with the group here. If anyone tells you this stuff is easy because AI makes it look pretty easy, they're misleading you. We have some of the best machine learning and AI specialists globally, and it's still really, really hard to make this stuff work and work in regulated industry where the margin of error, it has to be close to zero. So that's one for as we think about financial services. And then when you think about mining, another regulated industry, mining in particular in oil and gas and energy, et cetera, also very high risk business, not a lot of margin for error, especially when you think about safety.
Exactly.
So there are countless use cases that we're now developing around this idea of how do you reverse engineer what happens with employee accidents of any type, and how do we prevent that with AI to the best of our ability? And when you map out why something happened, you slowly, actually quite quickly get to see that a lot of those touch points can be done very quickly, efficiently, and precisely with AI. It's not going to replace everything, but it's providing considerably more peace of mind when we think of components of a regulated business like mining, oil and gas, that a small mishap can have catastrophic consequences. Those are just a few as I think about it, but the technology itself is so malleable. So I encourage everyone here to think about what is a big problem in terms of your organization, map out how it's currently done, question two things. A, is it done the right way now? Is this even the right process and way of doing it?
Yeah.
And B, if you conclude it is, which of those touch points can AI handle instead of a human?
Yeah, this morning we were talking about the mining industry and the remarkable advances they have included in terms of technology. And other than safety, which is critical, and I've seen very, very interesting cases in Chile, I will also add those cases that relate to the climate change and sustainability, on how to produce using less water, how to produce using less energy, how to produce reducing chemicals and any limiting factor of the productivity. And I think this is the common component, the common element that I see in the impactful cases are those that really hit the innermost execution loops of the industry. There's a key part of the process that is actually being accelerated by using the AI. So let's jump to leadership. Let's talk a little bit about the AI-ready executive, the AI-ready mindset of that an executive needs to have in order to take advantage. So, Michael, what you think is the minimum viable starting point that an executive need to have in order to start leveraging this opportunity?
Yeah, I think this is a really important topic because there are two camps that I've seen so far with my exposure to CEOs across Canada. One of, yeah, that's cute, I'll have someone else tackle it, AI might do a few things. And the other is, no, AI is going to transform our business. I want this to not just be the role of our chief technical officer, but the role of the CEO. So yes, I'm a little biased, I work at an AI company, but let's assume all of us in the room believe that AI is going to have some consequential impact today and even more so in the future on our organizations. If we do believe that to be true, we think it's absolutely paramount that it's not treated like a pet project. And there's a couple reasons why. One, oh, I like that song. We could maybe play that for a little longer. Is that if it's treated like a pet project, it gets pushed to the side and no longer woven through the core pieces of your business to have the material impact that actually people are going to notice. That's one. Two, it requires a delicate cocktail of investment, talent, and patience. And if you've just pushed it to the side and said, hey, I need something to be done in 6 months, and it's handled by the chief technical officer or the chief information officer, and we don't have the business side engaged with it as much, they have undue pressure where realistically they're going to do what they can with the time that they have, which is some type of pilot that's not necessarily going to transform the business. When you have leadership backing it up, and we've seen this time and time again, we were just last week with the CEO of TD Bank. They're one of the largest banks here. His name is Ray, and he is very invested in AI and the business. And he's around the table with all of his leadership team explaining clearly why this isn't a pet project and something material. And what happens there then is the precedent and understanding is now set that this is going to change our business, so more people are invested in it being successful. It's not just some side project. 2, it's not going to be easy. Usually the CEOs or leaders understand that transformation requires grit, perseverance, time, etc. And then 3, it gets the right resources allocated to it to make sure that it's impacting the business as a whole, not just a department over here or a department over there. So I don't think it's something that's easy to just go to every leader and say you have to care. Most right now either are interested or think it's some nice side project. But what I will say is if you want to have AI drive material impact in your organization, it will be very, very difficult if you do not have the executive team on board. And to do that, you need to help showcase that this is more than an augmentation tool that will summarize emails, but this is something that could transform the business fundamentally, and be very clear with them as well that it's not easy and it's not going to happen overnight. I get way too many people asking me, Mike, so what, this is going to be 3 months? Nothing, and I tell them all, nothing meaningfully important is going to happen in 3 months. It takes time because you want to do it right. You want to do it and be confident in the output. You want to do it where it can scale. And so really managing those expectations is really critical as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And from the public server standpoint, what a public server need to do in order, I know you have the presidential mandate, which actually helps, but there's anyway roadblocks and adoption.
If change is difficult in the private sector, where in average people have kept that job for 5 years maybe, in the public sector people have had that same specific job for 18 years in average.
In average.
So
Wow.
they have been doing the same thing, and of course any change will be received as a danger to lose their job.
Right.
When Uber first came into Chile, Santiago, Chile, the yellow cabs would cross their cars in front of Ubers that they caught doing Uber, and they would even get off the cab and punch them.
Right.
We want you out of Chile. And they were not punching the founder, they were punching a guy who was using the app to maybe bring food for his family. So I think AI is a train going past us at 300 miles an hour, and you have 2 choices. You either adapt and jump in the train, and I'm sure that the economy, the job market will be very grateful and treat nicely those who jump in the train and adapt, even if you're not perfect, even if you're not the best in the class. And the other choice is to stay beneath the train and just see it pass. You can cross your own body or your own car in the train, and the train will go right past you. And with those people who stay off the AI train, economy, jobs, cities will be very hard on them.
Right.
And they will regret the decision for many, many times, for many, many years. We have very good examples in Chile of things that work with AI. We have something called the PGU, a universal pension. You can get it after you turn 65 if you comply with certain specific details. And that is mostly done electronically. You turn 65, you go into the system, and 24 hours later you get an answer, and you start getting the $250 wage every month in your bank account. 89% of Chileans are bankerized. Everyone has a digital bank account. That's not something many countries could say, but we have terrible examples too. The migrations office, for example, it gets thousands of requests every month.
Yeah.
I visited the migration's new chief of office 2 weeks ago. He has 188,000 requests being unanswered, and everyone has to get online and do the request, but at the end they're checked by a human being. They are printed out.
Yeah.
This is not a joke. They are printed out and checked manually. So why am I giving this example? The public sector will resist to change. And the worst that can happen, the ridiculous example, is what happens when we vote in Chile. Voting is mandatory. If you are more than 200 kilometers away from your voting place, you have to go to a police station. We got AI into it. We did the Comisaría Digital, the digital police station. So you can do that online now. But the police, they said, okay, you can do that online, but you're still gonna need my stamp. So do it online, print it out at your house,
And bring it.
and then come down to the station and do the line for my stamp. That's a ridiculous case that we don't want. We don't want someone opening the door for AI, but then closing the window.
Right.
We don't want to do it twice. We don't want to eliminate paperwork to change it to a line. So if we're really going to have the public sector on board this train, we have to tell them how they have to prepare for the train.
Right.
How the train is going to have space for everyone. How, if you learn what AI has to give you, we can all become a Ferrari with the cost of a Tesla. We can all get on the train and we can all use the resources of the government in a better way.
Absolutely.
Mostly people who spend public money, they feel they're carrying the credit card of the whole school, of the class, of the 2000 generation class. You have to think, when you're a public servant, you have to think you're carrying your grandmother's credit card, and she lives out of a pension. And we have to transform our minds. I have to transform my mind too. I left behind a bag at the Marriott in New York, in Best Chile. I had 2 bags, I left one behind. I'm 46, so I need to speak to a human being to solve this problem. I searched for the number, I called 1-400, I tried 5 times, I spoke to many different people at the Marriott, no one gave me a solution. I went into the web page, I looked for a guest relations email, I wrote an email so I could get a human to answer me, and each time I went into the web page, there was an AI agent popping on the right side saying, what's your problem? I refused to look at the agent, I wanted to speak to a human being. And after 48 hours of trying and speaking to many friends here, I said, okay, I'm gonna try with the AI agent. And I tried. She or he answered. She or he was nice. And my bag is already on the way to the plane that will take me to Chile. So the AI lost my problem. I lost 48 hours
Trying.
because my public mind refused to use the AI agent. I would tell everyone in Chile, private or public, use the agent. If it's not perfect, we can train it, but get into the train, because if you don't,
Exactly.
you will suffer.
Exactly, and that's how you get scale. Okay, and let me just add from the enterprise sector in Chile. One of the things that I'm seeing is many executives are still in the thinking on how can I do the same using less energy, less effort, less hours, etc. And I've seen successful executives that are in opposition thinking on how can I do more with the same. And I think this small change of mindset really set apart those leaders that are actually leveraging AI to really unlock all the value that it can bring from those that are just seeing as an efficiency type of tool. So yeah, this is something that we are seeing, we have been seeing in Chile and the whole region. So let's say...
I think, can I have a comment
Sure,
on
please.
that? Because I think that's a really important point. If you're familiar with the video chain Blockbuster, it's a large video chain in North America. Maybe it made its way to Chile, I'm not quite sure. Oh, perfect. So we know this tale already. If they were thinking about when Netflix came out, well, wait a minute, maybe I can use that technology to have less staff in my Blockbuster. That would be an enormous miss, instead of using that technology to transform video renting holistically, which is what Netflix is today. And so that's the fundamental difference of why I think it's such a mistake to use this AI technology and think, great, I get to reduce staff or this or resources, et cetera, but keep the business the same. Instead of, great, I get to turn a Blockbuster into what they should have done, unfortunately someone else did it, Netflix, which is transform it all together. I also think it's a good analogy for the train, because I'm not naive. There's some scary stuff about AI. I think we can all agree to that. I'm also not naive that this is hard, and the biggest challenge we see in enterprise and public sector is people. People don't like to change. We know that. Case in point, 48 hours, eventually caved and used the AI bot. We're not naive to that. But what is happening is a technology has been born. Yes, AI goes back a while, but 2022 was the real birth of the generative side. And there's a couple things that are factual. I'll be as bold as to say that. One, the train is moving, and it will transform everything that we're doing. And two, it is moving very quickly. People often compare this with anecdotes of other change that's happened over the past 100, 200 years. The horse was replaced with the car. There's so many different examples. The thing that makes this technology so unique is that it's so malleable and it impacts every industry, and it's so fast. And so, although painful, I admit there are times when I'm doing something that probably would be easier with AI, but I am too stubborn. So I admit that there are going to be challenges of changing the way we think about how we do day-to-day activity. But what is certain is the way we're engaging with businesses, with the government, the public sector, based on the technology today, is that it will fundamentally change. And getting on the train in some capacity is going to be so important. Not just to keep you competitive, but to make sure you don't get left behind. Because Blockbuster and Netflix, maybe it seemed like it happened in 6 months. It was actually many, 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 many years. You won't have the benefit of that type of time either. So as we're thinking about this and thinking about how do we use this, yes, there's areas for efficiency, and I'm not saying you can't use it to use less energy. But the real magic of the technology is how are you going to transform your present-day Blockbuster into the future-day Netflix of whatever that is your business is doing. Because it has so much potential to do that for essentially any vertical. And so as you're thinking about that, I really strongly encourage the group to not just think about it as an axe chopping exercise, but thinking about how it can transform how you're serving citizens, clients, people, the environment, the world, and think about how it can do it just that much more impactful and And I think there'll be tremendous prosperity as a result of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and this will require leadership, is to reimagine eventually the business, is to reimagine what else can we do and what new things that have never probably been done before that AI now allows us to at least think on and start experimenting.
We like sentences in politics. We like famous phrases that go into history. We read Winston Churchill and others in Latin America. Maybe we could say one.
Okay.
I would say this one would probably be in someone's campaign in a few years. Ask not what technology will do for you, but what you, your country, and your leaders will accomplish with the help of technology.
Exactly.
That's the big difference. AI is not here to replace us. It's not here to replace democracy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not here to replace judgment. It's what we can do with the help of technology.
Absolutely.
Being faster,
Yeah.
being better, and having more time for leisure, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's finish with a quick round of takeaways and concrete actions that the country or executives can start taking today. So let's start with you, Jorge. The bill is still being discussed. So is there something in the bill or in the public sector in general that need to get right?
I mentioned something at the beginning about the fines. It's thought for big AI companies.
Mm-hmm.
I would like Chile and Congress not only to look at the European Union model. I think it's a little restrictive. We need to open the space for AI coming from every part of the world. We need sovereignty. We are working on the Humboldt cable. You are probably familiar with the problem we had with the other cable from another country, and there was some political mess there too. So we need to be connected. We need a direct connection to Asia. We need a direct connection to the world. We need to not only look at Cohere and examples like Canada. I would love to host Cohere in Chile. We have something in January called Congreso del Futuro, the Congress of the Future. We have speakers from all parts of the world who are leaders in not only AI techniques, but how to make life simpler and better. It would be very nice to have someone from your company as a speaker in Congreso del Futuro. And for the first time this year, we're going to ask Congreso del Futuro, this huge organization led by Guido Girardi, to choose 3 public problems they will solve with technology. So it's no longer a seminar that only talks about the future of the world of AI, but it's solving a specific problem in the customs office, in the border patrol, in health, in education. They have to choose 3, and they've had a very hard time. They prefer the lecture type of Congreso del Futuro.
Right.
But I have to make the check or sign it at least, so I'm forcing them to propose 3 solutions.
Interesting, because in Congreso Futuro we usually have the most brilliant minds, including Nobel Prizes, etc. So it would be great to...
And the big catch, if you go, is that after the conference, we put you all in a Navy ship and we visit Antarctica. How's that?
He's selling that. Michael, just to finish the round, 1 or 2 suggestions for an executive.
I'm looking forward to the ship in Antarctica and helping solve the 3 big challenges. Yeah, I think there's a few things. One is it's not easy. So whoever has ever shared that to you, just I saw this new OpenAI model that'll solve everything. Just please take comfort in knowing we work at an AI company. We use AI. We build AI. It's very hard to do transformational stuff. So a few things to think about as you're exploring this further and further, and as you're evolving from testing to what's called production. Number 1, will this work today, and what does this look like if it works really well 3 years from now? Be mindful of how much will this cost if it's successful? How secure will this be if all of our employees or constituents are using this? Think short-term and long-term. We have seen way too many people get caught up with a successful test and they say, oh crap, I've done the back of the napkin math. This is a real anecdote. And if I use this one model, it'll cost us $100 million just for the model. And so these are things they're learning a little too late. So think today, but also think tomorrow in terms of viable economics. 2, don't think AI strategy for the sake of AI strategy. Think first and foremost, what is your organization trying to do? And what will transform its ability to do that? And then see where AI can lend a hand as a tool to help you achieve that. Don't get distracted by all these wonderful demo videos and examples of cool things. Think first and foremost, what are you trying to achieve? Then you can think about how AI can help do that. 3, this is not a one company solve. And what I mean by that is, as much as I'd love to sit here and say, all the other models are terrible, just use Cohere, that isn't what we say. Different models and different AI companies will serve you for different reasons and different needs. So it's very important not to get caught up with just one, but think holistically how they can fill certain roles with what you're trying to do. As well, we talked a lot about it today, the type of control and the sovereign capability of it, especially when you think about high stakes, whether it's government, regulated business. I don't want nor like that we have to talk about this, but the fact is the geopolitical climate has now shown that essentially anything is possible. And what I don't want is everyone here, and for us to be reconnecting on the ship on the way to Antarctica and going, shit, Mike, our neighbors to, our south, your north, put a tech tariff on US models, and now I'm pinched. I don't want that to be the case. Do we think that's going to be the case? No, hopefully not, of course. But the fact is, this will be too important to have all your AI eggs in one basket. So think about sovereign, think about control, and think about flexibility. Because whatever it is that you want to be using this for, and like Blockbuster to Netflix, it's going to change everything you're doing, so you'll be using it. Think about what happens if someone decides to turn it off and I don't have control of it. What happens if someone, much like we're seeing with tariffs across a lot of our countries, decides to jack the price up 50%? Think about that as well, because when you're thinking about how this is going to work, it's not just for today or tomorrow, but it's got to be sustainable. So those are a couple things I want to leave you with as you're going on your AI journey. And of course, Cohere would love to help in any capacity that we can. And thank you for having me.
You're already invited to the Congress of the Future in January. So
Also.
Beautiful.
get the tickets.